Our Miss Brooks, starring Eve Arden. For some time now, our Miss Brooks and Miss Daisy Enright, both English teachers at Madison High, have competed for the affections of Mr. Boynton, Madison's biology instructor. Their rivalry may be compared to the spectacle of two fine boxers skillfully sparring for an opening, or two master chess players carefully planning each move, or two great generals planning attack and counterattack.
Or a couple of dead-end kids armed with broken milk bottles and brass knuckles. Several weeks ago, I finally conceived a plan of attack that was certain to eliminate Miss Enright forevermore as a rival for Mr. Boynton. The first part of the master plan called for my going on an intensive diet, and after living for weeks on carrots, dried fruits, and lychee nuts, the supreme moment arrived when I could say, Mrs. Davis.
Yes, Connie?
I'm ready now to sit for my portrait.
Oh, I'm glad, dear, because I'm too weak to stand.
Well, that day I sat for our town's newest portrait photographer, Laverne of Hollywood, on Walter Denton's special recommendation. And if I do say so myself, when Laverne snapped that shutter, I looked like a living doll. The following morning, Mrs. Davis couldn't restrain her curiosity any longer.
Connie, please tell me, why did we have to go through all that for just one portrait?
Well, Mrs. Davis, you've been so wonderful, I'm going to let you in on my secret. That portrait of me by Laverne is going to be a surprise gift to Mr. Boynton as a reward for the great honor that's just been conferred on him.
Oh, of course. You mean his being appointed head scoutmaster of Eager Beaver Troop 32 of the Boy Scouts.
Yes, that's it. Mr. Boynton is the head, but probably least eager of the beavers. Well, Mrs. Davis, what do you think of my idea? I mean, presenting Mr. Boynton with a framed photograph of myself.
Oh, it'll make a lovely gift, dear. Will it be a 4x5 or a 5x7?
A 16 by 24. The idea is for Mr. Boynton to see a great deal of me.
Oh, of course. And 16 by 24 is the largest size. Is that it?
Outside of wallpaper, yes.
Good morning, Miss Brooks.
Good morning to Madison's most beauteous faculty member.
Oh, hello, kids.
Miss Brooks, how did you like that photographer Walter sent you to? Isn't Laverne of Hollywood the most?
Well, his prices certainly are. Still, I'm not complaining, and I'm thankful to you, Walter, for sending me to him. But do me a big favor, will you? Don't, under any circumstances, tell anyone about the gift I'm giving Mr. Boynton. Also, let's keep your Mr. Laverne strictly to ourselves. Don't tell a soul, not a female soul,
Oh, I get it. Hey, and fear not, Miss Brooks. Your secret is sealed up in the chambers of my mind, where it will remain solidly entombed like
the answers to my last English quiz. Just don't tell anybody.
Huh? No, don't worry, Miss Brooks. I wouldn't dream of... Oh, yeah, don't look now, but I think I see Miss Enright approaching on your starboard bow.
Well, batten down my hatches and prepare to abandon ship.
I wonder what she wants.
Well, besides Mr. Boynton, I haven't the faintest idea.
Well, you'll soon find out. Yeah, come on, Harriet. We got to get to class.
All right, Walter. See you later, Miss Brooks.
Bye, Harriet.
Well, good morning, Miss Brooks. And how is my dear friend this morning?
If I can find one, I'll ask her.
Oh, darling, you have such a charming sense of humor. Gay, effervescent, bubbling, like a slightly moss-covered fountain.
Well, it's been nice chatting with you. But I must be on my way to class.
Oh, just a moment, Miss Brooks. I stopped you for a reason. It concerns Mr. Boynton.
Mr. Boynton?
Yes. You see, I have a delightful surprise for him as a reward for the honor he's just won.
Really?
Now, Miss Brooks, the only reason I'm discussing the question of gifts with you is to prevent us from both giving him the same thing.
Oh, well, there isn't a chance of that, I assure you.
No, I suppose not. I'm presenting him with a framed photograph of myself taken by Laverne of Hollywood. And that's something you could never possibly have thought of, unless we were sisters living under the same roof.
What do you hear from Mom, sis?
What? You can't be serious. You mean you intend giving him the same thing?
That's what I mean. But where on earth did you get the idea? And drop dead Walter Denton.
Yes. As a matter of fact, Walter did give me the idea. I've already had my picture taken. I was supposed to pick it up this afternoon, so I'm afraid you'll have to...
Oh, I'm supposed to pick mine up this afternoon, too, so I'm afraid you'll have to...
Very well, darling. I see I'll have to convince you to back out the hard way. Here, you may look at the proof of the picture I'm giving him.
Certainly. It must be pretty awful. Wow!
I don't look too bad in a French bathing suit, do I, dear?
I don't know. Where is the suit? Oh, yes, there it is. I thought at first it was a speck of dust. Miss Enright, this isn't fair. Besides, Mr. Boynton would never display such a photograph unless it had a calendar under it.
Oh, I have a feeling he'll love it, darling. Men being men. And now, what did you say you were getting him, dear?
I don't know. I may just decide to hop up on his bureau myself. Well, it was quite a blow to hear that Miss Enright was going to surprise Mr. Boynton with a photograph of herself at the same time I was. All morning, I thought of how to prevent it, but without success. So in order to be certain my lunch hour would be free for additional thought, at noon I took every possible precaution to avoid passing our beloved principal's office. I walked down the back stairs, past the women's lockers, through the cellar, then through the furnace room, up the stairs to the furnace room door, which faced the rear of the cafeteria. As I opened the door quickly, it landed against something soft.
You can help me up now if you want to.
Mr. Conklin! Oh, my goodness, sir, I'm terribly sorry. But why were you shaving all the way back here?
I wasn't shaving, Miss Brooks. My face was just propelled into my custard pie. I was carrying a tray of food.
A tray of food? But I don't see any food.
How could you? Thanks to you, I'm sitting in most of it. Miss Brooks, was your mother ever frightened by a Keystone Cop?
Really, Mr. Conklin, I'm terribly sorry, but I had no idea.
Oh, never mind. What's done is done. I suppose I can brush most of this stuff off. I wanted to have a word with you anyway, but hardly under these circumstances. Now, to be brief, it has come to my attention that a few of my teachers are considering patronizing a certain notorious photographer in town.
A notorious photographer?
Yes. This man Laverne has been making his living up to now in Hollywood, taking cheesecake pictures of cinema starlets. Such a man can have nothing but a corrosive and demoralizing effect on the community. And I'm sure Mr. Stone, the head of the Board of Education, would concur in this opinion.
How do you know, sir?
I asked him. Therefore, henceforth, Mr. Laverne's studio will be considered out of bounds to Madison's personnel, and any teacher or pupil found on or near his premises will be ruthlessly dealt with. Is that clear, Miss Brooks?
Yes, sir.
Then I won't detain you from your lunch any longer. And please pass the word along to any teachers you meet in the cafeteria who have not already heard my edict.
But aren't you coming in for lunch today, sir?
With you in the same cafeteria, I wouldn't dare.
Well, see you later, then.
Well, hello, Miss Brooks.
Oh, hello, Mr. Boynton.
I was hoping I'd run into you down here today. I wanted to treat you for lunch. Sort of celebrate the award I won.
Well, Mr. Boynton, how thoughtful. Is that the lunch in the bundle you're carrying?
In the bundle? Oh, no, Miss Brooks. That's some track pants for later. I intend giving my mother a photograph of myself by Laverne of Hollywood. That's why I'll need these track pants for my photograph.
You're posing in just track pants?
That's right. My mother always liked my athletic pictures at college, so I thought I'd pose for one like that now. I want it to be a complete surprise.
Don't we all? Well, aren't you taking an awful chance after Mr. Conklin's edict?
Well, because Laverne's studio is out of bounds? I've thought about it, Miss Brooks, but since I'm already committed, I'll take my chances.
Oh, when are you going down to have this photograph taken?
Well, I have an appointment with Laverne at 4 o'clock this afternoon.
4 this afternoon?
Oh, yes. It's the only time he has open for weeks. Some woman is supposed to come in to pick up her picture a little before that, and I'm supposed to follow this woman.
I know. You were supposed to follow this woman for the past 6 years, but you Sure picked a heck of a time to start.
But, Miss Brooks, the only reason I came into your classroom was to explain what happened. It's true Laverne paid me 10%, but you see,
Walter, it's a little late for explanations. By now, because of your recommendations, everyone in school is having his picture taken as a surprise gift for someone else. But worst of all, because of your galloping jaws, Mr. Conklin has declared Laverne out of bounds.
Oh, I didn't mention him to Mr. Conklin. Laverne sent him a special calendar of his beautiful girls for Christmas, and Mr. Conklin tore it up.
Are you certain?
Of course I'm certain. I was in his office when he took it out of his wall safe this morning and tore it up.
It figures. Well, perhaps I have misjudged you slightly, but my particular problem is to prevent Miss Enright from giving Mr. Boynton her picture.
Well, I think I've got a way to eliminate Miss Enright. Quick, clean, and easy.
Yeah, I thought of that, too, but she refuses to eat the cafeteria food.
No, it's nothing like that, Miss Brooks. But I know she can't pay for her picture until the first of the month. And if you can convince Mr. Laverne that she's a bad credit risk when you pick up your picture, he may not give Miss Enright hers.
Who's your study teacher, Lucretia Borgia? Say, that might work at that.
Of course it will. Well, does that prove that your interests are uppermost in my mind, Miss Brooks? And that my plugs for Mr. Laverne were not only for personal gain, but also mere boyish enthusiasm?
Walter, your boyish enthusiasm stopped when you traded your celluloid rattle to the baby next door for his gold teething ring. Later that afternoon, in spite of Mr. Conklin's edict, I was in Laverne's studio. When he showed me my portrait, I told him how happy I was with the result.
Well, I'm delighted that you're pleased with my work, Miss Brooks, and I hope the others who are coming in this afternoon are equally satisfied.
You're expecting Miss Enright, aren't you?
Why, yes. Do you know her?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes. Good old Skippy is a...
Skippy?
Oh, that's just a friendly little nickname that the loan company gave her. Good old Skippy, always the first to skip a payment.
She skips payments?
Yes, but she's so wonderful. You know, she never has less than a half a dozen men chasing after her.
Well, she must be quite popular.
They're all from the collection agency.
Oh. I think perhaps I'd better hold on to Miss Enright's picture until...
Who's that?
Oh, probably Mr. Boynton. He's also a teacher.
Oh, I've got to get out of here. My picture is a surprise for him. He mustn't see me here. Quick, where can I hide? Where can I hide?
Oh, goodness, this is exciting. I feel just like we're being raided. Now, over there, Miss Brooks. That door leads to my dark room. You can stay there until I get rid of Mr. Boynton. That's it, right through that door. Oh, Mr. Boynton, just in time, I see.
Mr. Laverne, this picture you're taking of me is to be for my mother. And I'd like a relaxed, informal pose.
Oh, nothing else but. Would you like one of those studious shots? You know, pipe in mouth and that dreamy look in the eyes? Or would you prefer to pose bare in a leopard skin?
A leopard skin?
Oh, you'd look just snazzy.
No, thanks, Mr. Laverne. What I want...
Oh, goodness, that must be somebody else from the school.
From the school? Oh, holy smoke. Your place is out of bounds for us. Oh, I got to get out of here. Now, where can I hide? Where does that door lead to?
The dark room, but...
Oh, never mind. That's good enough. Oh, that was a close shave. Oh, hey, gosh, it's dark in here. Why, it'd be completely dark if it weren't for that dim purple light over the basin.
Anybody got a slingshot?
Miss Brooks! Oh, gosh, you startled me. What are you doing here?
I just know that streetcar gag won't hold up. Well, you see, Mr. Boynton, I was...
Probably the same reason I'm here. Well, I think that's Mr. Conklin out there now, Miss Brooks, undoubtedly checking up on us. Goodness knows how long we'll have to stay huddled together in this stuffy dark room. Maybe half an hour.
Or an hour. Or 2. Or 12. Or a week.
A week?
Or maybe Mr. Laverne will forget about us and go on a vacation. We may be here quite a while.
Well, I suppose we might as well do something while we're waiting for Mr. Conklin to leave.
Yeah, we might as well, mightn't we? We might as well do that. We certainly might. Might as well.
Now, what'd be something for two people to do together in a dark room?
2 guesses, and I can't stay puckered forever.
I've got it. Of course. Why didn't I think of it before? The ideal thing.
Yes, Mr. Boynton?
We'll develop some of Laverne's pictures for him.
What a revolting development this is.
Maybe I'd better take a peek outside and see what's going on.
No, Mr. Boynton, let them lead their lives and we'll lead ours.
Just one little peek.
Miss Enright, if I let you have the picture, are you certain you can pay by the 1st of the month?
Oh, absolutely. You may even get your money sooner if Miss Brooks pays me the $300 she owes me.
Miss Brooks owes you $300, Skippy? Miss Enright?
Yes, and I just hate to ask that poor bankrupt soul for the money. Just isn't like me to hit anyone when she's down.
Not when you can kick her in the head instead.
Heavens, Miss Enright, I had no idea Miss Brooks was...
Who's that?
Probably someone from your school. Walter Denton has sent me
From
a
the
number...
school? Oh, but this place is out of bounds. Oh, quick, where can I hide?
Well, I'm having splendid success with the darkroom.
Yes, that's it. Is that where the door leads?
But Miss Enright...
Oh, my goodness, it's dark in here. Where's the light in this place? Oh!
That's not a light switch you're turning, Miss Enright. That's my nose.
Miss Brooks, what are you doing here?
I was doing fine until you butted in.
Oh, hello, Miss Enright.
Why, Mr. Boynton.
Oh, quiet. Quiet. I think I hear Mr. Conklin's voice.
Mr. Conklin. Oh, if he finds me here, I'll be fired.
Well, don't worry. There's a civil service exam for county dog catcher coming up. You ought to be...
If we're all quiet for a minute, maybe I can take a look outside.
No, Mr. Laverne. I'd look ridiculous posing in that leopard skin.
But, Mr. Conklin, you said you wanted an unusual portrait of yourself, didn't you?
Well, of course, but I prefer to pose in my own skin, if you don't mind.
Very well, sir.
Who's that? Who? Good grief, I mustn't be seen in here. This place is out of bounds. Where can I hide? Where does that door lead to?
The fraternity room. Standing room only in there.
The dark room. Yes, the dark. That's it. The dark room.
Yeah, but, sir, I don't think it...
Goodness, this door must be automatic. It opened up for me just as I approached it. It's just lucky none of my faculty know I'm here because...
Hello, Mr. Conklin.
Hello, Miss Brooks. If they ever heard about it, I could hardly bear to look any one of them.
Hello, Mr. Conklin.
Hello, Mr. Boynton, in the face. Besides, they'd have so much on me, I'd probably never live it down as long
Hello,
as...
Mr. Conklin.
Hello, Miss Enright. As I remained at Madison, they'd hold it over me, do everything in their power to force me to do whatever they wanted. And there's nothing I could possibly... Hello, Miss Brooks, Mr. Boynton, Miss Enright! Oh, yes! Then I haven't been talking to myself.
No, but you soon will be.
But what are all of you doing here?
Oh, just a moment, sir. I think I hear Mr. Stone's voice out there.
Mr. Stone? Oh, what'll I do? I'm ruined. What can I tell him if he finds me in here?
We might tell him Mr. Laverne's hobby is collecting school teachers.
Oh, what's the use? I couldn't stand the embarrassment of having Mr. Stone find me. I'm going out there like a man and give myself up.
Oh, no, don't do it, sir.
Mr. Stone!
Good heaven.
Holy catfish.
Oh, I don't know. I think Mr. Stone looks cute in that leopard skin.
Our Miss Brooks, starring Eve Arden. Transcribed, was produced and directed by Larry Burns. Written by Arthur Alsberg and Lou Derman with the music of Wilbur Hatch. Mr. Conklin was played by Gail Gordon. Others in tonight's cast were Jane Morgan, Dick Crenna, Bob Rockwell, Ann Whitfield, Mary Jane Croft, and Frank Nelson. Be sure to be...
Now it's Our Miss Brooks, starring Eve Arden. Well, quite a few romances have started between faculty members teaching at the same school. But for our Miss Brooks, who teaches English at Madison High School, romance is a problem.
It's really two problems. Problem number one is the object of my affections, Mr. Philip Boynton, biology teacher. He's so bashful, he won't even shave himself unless he's wearing a tie. And problem number two is the strict anti-fraternization rule laid down by Madison's beloved principal, Osgood Conklin. Of course, Mr. Boynton devised a very effective method of getting around this rule. He suggested that we stop seeing each other entirely. However, I immediately used my power of veto, and before he could take it to the General Assembly, we convened for 2 dates away from the school. The last date occurred on Wednesday night, and Thursday morning at breakfast, my landlady asked for details.
Now tell me everything that happened last night, Connie.
We went to a movie, Mrs. Davis.
And
we came home. And fold up your program. The recital is over. Pass the cream, please.
But what did Mr. Boynton say? What did he do?
Nothing. Pass the cream.
I can't understand that man. Here he has date after date with a girl who's intelligent, attractive, wholesome,
chic,
charming. And what does he do about it?
Nothing. Pass the cream. Oh, it's not that he isn't fond of me, Mrs. Davis, but he's been worried lately about someone very near and dear to him.
A relative?
Yes, his pet frog, McDougal. It seems with the cold weather coming on, Mac is very prone to laryngitis, and there are no heating facilities for the cages. The least the school should do is put some heating equipment in there.
Why doesn't Mr. Boynton ask Mr. Conklin for it?
Because Mr. Boynton is almost as terrified of Mr. Conklin as he is of me. He wouldn't dare ask him for anything.
Then you've got to do it, Connie. Don't you see? If you get the things that he needs, Mr. Boynton won't be so preoccupied and worried when he's out on dates with you.
Well, it's worth a try, I guess. Now, if I can remember where I left it, I'll put my face on and get ready for Walter Denton. He's driving me to school again.
You mean your car is still in the repair shop?
Yes, the mechanic called yesterday and said it would take a bit longer this time. It seems they're having a little trouble with the motor.
What kind of trouble?
They've misplaced it. I'm glad you picked me up early today, Walter. I've got to stop in Mr. Conklin's office before my first class.
Oh, what a depressing way to start off the day. I'm glad I don't have to see our beloved principal this morning. I'm low enough already.
Low?
Yeah, I feel gloomier than a school teacher's personality. Present company accepted, of course.
Of course. What's the reason for your blue mood? Did Harriet Conklin give you the go-by?
Oh, no, ma'am. No, Harriet and I are still an item. It's Stretch Snodgrass who's preying on my mind.
Maybe that's because he hasn't got one of his own.
Yeah, I know he's never been exactly a beacon of brilliance scholastically, Miss Brooks, but on that gridiron, he's always been a tower of strength. Up to last week, that is.
What happened last week?
Well, you saw the game last Saturday. Didn't you see what he did?
Sure. He picked up a fumble and ran 85 yards with it. Of course, I couldn't quite figure out why I was the only one in my section who was cheering.
He ran the wrong way. That's how Oakhurst beat us, on that one numbskull play. Now, if Stretch doesn't perk up, we'll lose our big game to Clay City next week.
What do you think is the cause of this change, Walter?
Yeah, I know what it is. The big goof's in love.
In love?
Yeah, and the trouble is he won't tell anybody who the girl is. Oh, wait a minute. You know, he's very fond of you, Miss Brooks. Maybe you could straighten him out. You know, have a talk with him and...
I'd like to help, Walter, but I've got a more pressing problem this morning. That's why I'm going straight to Mr. Conklin's office.
Well, what could possibly be more pressing than Madison's winning the battle of the year?
My winning the battle of Boynton's lab.
Daddy, why are you so despondent?
Because of our coach's report on Snodgrass, that's why. He's been playing abominably, and the coach knows the reason. The big moose is in love.
In love? Oh, but isn't there something we can do, Daddy?
If there were, I'd be doing it. You don't think I want to lose this game to Jason Brill's Clay City nincompoops, do you?
Well, of course not, Daddy. I know Mr. Brill's your arch rival.
He's worse than that. He's just no way out. There's no way I could possibly feel any worse than I do right now.
Have you thought of Miss Brooks, Daddy?
You have just shown me a way.
Miss Brooks might be able to help. If there's one person in this school whom Stretch admires and respects, it's her. Maybe she could pull him out of his doldrums.
So you might have something there at that. As soon as she gets to school, Come in.
Oh, pardon me, Mr. Conklin. If you're busy, I'll come back later.
Not at all, Miss Brooks. Harriet was just leaving for a class. Run along, child.
Okay, Daddy. See you later, Miss Brooks.
Goodbye, Harriet.
Well, sit down, won't you? Over here by my desk. That's the most comfortable chair.
Maybe you don't know who I am, sir. It's Miss Brooks.
I know it's Miss Brooks, and I'm delighted that you dropped in to see me this morning.
You are? Well, then it won't be so difficult to ask a favor.
You want a favor of me, Miss Brooks?
Yes, I do, sir.
Oh, now isn't that a coincidence? I want a favor of you. One hand washes the other, eh?
That's as good a way as any to get them both clean. What is your favor, Mr. Conklin?
Well, as you know, Madison's big football game with Clay City is to be played next week.
Yes, sir.
You are also aware of my intense rivalry with Jason Brill, their principal.
Yes, sir, but what do you want of me, Mr. Conklin?
Well, it's very simple, Miss Brooks. Perhaps you've heard about Snodgrass running the wrong way last Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you know that nobody with half a brain could make a mistake like that twice, except perhaps Snodgrass. And that idiot woman a few rows behind me who kept cheering him.
Next Saturday, I'll keep my mouth shut. What do you think I can do about Stretch, Mr. Conklin?
Well, you may be able to straighten him out. You see, Miss Brooks, he's been even worse in practice this week than in that game last Saturday, and the coach seems to think it's because he's in love.
That's what Walter Denton thinks, too.
Does Denton know with whom?
No, sir, nobody does.
Exactly, and that's where you come in. In his lame-brained, dunce-like way, Snodgrass admires you greatly. He has his reasons, I'm sure.
We lame-brained dunces are pretty clannish.
Well, what I meant was you seem to be the logical person to find out just what little baggage is turning Snodgrass's head. And I use the word advisedly.
And if I find out, what then?
Then your natural feminine instincts will come to the fore, and you will devise some way to circumvent the activities of the aforementioned bit of baggage. Now then, what is the favor you seek?
Well, Mr. Boynton needs some new equipment for the biology lab, and he's too timid to ask for it.
He shall have it. What kind of equipment?
Or some heating facilities, for one thing, and more comfortable cages for his frogs and guinea pigs.
It's done. Anything else?
Else? Well, now that you mention it, I could use a new desk and some new window shades in my room. I also would like to have it painted a nice, cheerful shade of green.
Miss Brooks, you are speaking with Osgood Conklin, not the Aga Khan.
Well, if that's the way you feel about it, sir, maybe Stretch and his girl should be left alone. After all,
A nice, cheerful shade of green it is. Now, you're sure you know what to do, Miss Brooks?
Leave it to me, Mr. Conklin. When I get through with him, Stretch will not only check his baggage, he won't call for her for 30 days. Well, I took advantage of a free period I had right before lunch and sought out Madison's moon-eyed mastodon, Stretch Snodgrass. I found him near the water fountain in the hall. He was slouching against the wall and seemed half asleep. But when I approached him, he snapped to attention.
Hi.
Hello, Stretch. I hope I'm not keeping you up. I mean, I hope I'm not keeping you from any of your classes, but I would like to talk to you for a few minutes.
Well, you ain't keeping me from nothing, Miss Brooks. French class is the place which I'm supposed to have been at pretty soon from now. But my French can wait.
At least until your English catches up. Stretch, what I wanted to talk to you about was your football playing. You know yourself that you're not playing as well as you used to, and a lot of your friends around here are beginning to worry about it.
Why should they worry? Gosh, just because I don't play over my head in every game, everybody gets all upset. This season's been nothing but practice, practice, practice. The guy can't go on like that. Well, just all work and no play. After all, I ain't no automatron.
No automatron?
You know, a mechanical man. The kind they call a Robert. Besides, a little relaxing never hurt nobody.
Stretch, why should a young boy like yourself be yawning in the middle of the morning?
I'm tired.
Couldn't have thought of a better answer if I'd tried all day.
My new girlfriend thinks relaxing is good for me. She won't even let me quit rumbering and take her home till 1 in the morning. It's been going on like that for the last 2 weeks.
Who is this new girlfriend, Stretch?
Oh, no, you don't.
No, I don't what?
You don't get Judy's name out of me. I promised to keep it a secret.
Well, that's your privilege. If you don't want me to know Judy's name, I'm not going to know Judy's name. That's all there is to that. Judy what?
Gosh, I didn't even want that part of her name to get out, but it just slipped. Well, look, Miss Brooks, you wouldn't want me to break a promise, would you?
Fervently. Listen, Stretch, even if you enjoy all this rumbering, don't your girl's parents object to these late hours every night?
Oh, I'm sure they don't.
How can you be so sure?
Her old man gives me the money to take her out.
What?
Sure. He's not like our principal. Mr. Brill's a real good sport.
Stretch, you mean to tell me you've been taking out Judy Brill?
How do you know?
A little bird brain told me. I can't wait to see Mr. Conklin's reaction to this bit of news.
Gosh, Miss Brooks, you're not going to tell Mr. Conklin, are you?
Not yet, Stretch. Out of consideration for his family, there's something I've got to find out first.
What's that?
If his life insurance is paid up. I've talked through your entire lunch, Mr. Boynton, but it couldn't be helped. If we're going to get any favors from Mr. Conklin, we've got to straighten out Stretch Snodgrass.
I'm glad you told me the story, Miss Brooks. Imagine Jason Brill putting his own daughter up to a trick like that. What kind of a girl is this Judy Brill, anyhow?
Well, you know the expression, sweet 16 and never been kissed.
Yes.
When this kid reached 12, she was ineligible. I met her last summer, Mr. Boynton. Judy Brill is quite a little firebrand. She's at an age now where she considers all males fair game.
There's an age?
This boy's been learning biology as well as teaching it. Look, Mr. Boynton, when I found out that Stretch was going with Jason Brill's daughter, I devised a plan. We're going to beat Jason Brill at his own game. All we have to do is to get Stretch to think that Judy's just a flirt, and he'll lose all interest in her.
But how do we do that?
By letting Stretch catch her on a date with some other boy.
What other boy?
Walter Denton.
Walter Denton?
Did I hear somebody mention my name?
Oh, you're just in time, Walter. Sit down, please. Mr. Boynton and I would like to talk to you.
Okay. Have you thought of any way to get Stretch's mind off the mystery woman and back on his football game, Miss Brooks?
Yes, Walter, I've thought of a dilly of a plan. But it requires some cooperation from you.
We should all do whatever we can, Walter. This is a crisis.
Well, yeah, but what can I do? He won't even tell me the name of this chick.
The name of the chick is Judy Brill, and her father's been paying all the expenses to keep Stretch out late every night rumbering.
Rumbering?
Yes, rumbering. While the Clay City team is getting its rest, Judy Brill is keeping our star player's backfield in motion. But I know the kind of a boy Stretch is, and If we can arrange to have him catch Judy with another boyfriend, I know he'll forget all about her.
Not only forget about her, but it might make him so mad he'll go out on that field Saturday and play the game of his life.
Say, that sounds like a swell idea. You know, of course, Stretch is boxing champ of Madison, too, so it might not be so pleasant for the guy he catches with his girl. But that's a necessary risk, I guess. Who's the chump you've got lined up to be the patsy in this?
Don't be crude, Patsy. Walter. I thought that you'd be happy to volunteer for the job.
Me?
You want to see Madison beat Clay City, don't you?
Well, sure I do, but will I have my bandages off in time? Oh, you've never seen Stretch fight. I have.
Believe me, Walter, Mr. Boynton and I will make sure that Stretch doesn't lay a hand on you.
He doesn't have to. He could kick me to death. No, I'm afraid you'll just have to count me out, folks. No.
Count you out? Oh, but Walter, Stretch is a very dear friend of yours. Now, you don't want to see him ruin his life, do you?
Don't you see, Walter, this girl isn't right for Stretch. It isn't just a football game that's involved. It's a boy's future.
But what about my future?
What about your future?
I want to be around when it gets here. Oh, Stretch has a terrible temper, and if he catches me making goo-goo eyes at his girl, he'll clobber me till I'm dismal. Besides, there's Harriet Conklin. You know, we're virtually betrothed. Now, what would she think if she heard I was out with another girl?
She won't hear, Walter. And even if she does, we can always explain that you were just doing it for the good of your school.
No, I'm sorry. No, I'd rather not take the chance.
I'm surprised at you, Walter. Haven't you any sense of loyalty?
Haven't you any school spirit? This whole thing won't take you more than half an hour. All you have to do is sit on the couch and put your arms around a little red-headed girl with big blue eyes, a cute little turned-up nose, and an adorable mouth.
No, I still think that if Stretch had an adorable mouth...
Exquisite.
Nobody can say I haven't got any school spirit. What time and where?
Make it 8 o'clock tonight at my place. I'll drop over to Clay City High this afternoon and tell Judy I'm thinking of accepting her father's invitation to join the faculty there next term. Then I'll invite her over to my place for dinner, ostensibly so I can ask some questions about my new pupil.
But supposing she won't come?
Oh, she'll be glad to come. Judy Brill's just a little girl, and to be asked to dinner by a woman like Miss Brooks is quite flattering. After all, when you get right down to ages...
When you get right down to ages, I'm almost twice as tall as Judy Brill. Well, part A of my plan worked perfectly, and that afternoon I persuaded Judy Brill to have dinner at my house. So at 8 o'clock that evening, we were in the living room, gabbing away like a couple of old... extremely young magpies.
I'm sure glad you asked me over tonight, Miss Brooks. The dinner was wonderful, and I've enjoyed talking to you about your teaching at Clay City next term.
I suppose you feel you should be out dancing Stretch's feet off, but you've still got 3 nights before the big game, and not seeing you tonight will only make him more anxious.
You're so right. Men are such problems. They're just like children. You've got to play up to their ego and convince each one he's the only man in your life. Oh, but listen to me telling you about men. A sophisticated, charming woman like you. Tell the truth. How many men do you have dangling from a string?
Just one, Judy. And he doesn't exactly dangle. He sort of bobs and weaves.
As if I'd believe that about a woman like you, Miss Brooks. Oh, I wish I had your knowledge of men.
Want to trade?
It was a very pleasant coincidence that Walter Denton dropped over, don't you think? He's an awfully cute boy.
I'm glad you like him, Judy. By the way, where did he disappear to?
I didn't disappear. She's on my lap.
Oh, now, isn't that sweet? What a naive way to get acquainted. I'd better answer that. Mrs. Davis is in her sitting room down the hall.
You want me to answer it?
You sit right where you are, Walter.
Yes, you sit right where you are, Walter.
How can I help it? She hasn't budged off me since I said, how do you do, Miss Brill?
I'll get it.
Well, here we are, Miss Brooks.
Hello, Mr. Boynton. Come on in, Stretch.
Thanks.
Well, what brings you to this part of town, Stretch?
I was just walking home when Mr. Boynton drove up alongside the curb in his car and stuck his head out of the window and said, "Hi, Stretch, just the fellow I've been looking for. How about hopping in and going for a little ride over to Miss Brooks' place and having a glass of milk or something if you haven't got anything better to do?" And I didn't have nothing better to do, so I said, "Okay, Mr. Boynton, I'd like nothing better than to hop in and go over to Miss Brooks' for a glass of milk or something." Have you got any?
So that's what brings you to this part of town. Well, I'll give you some milk later, Stretch. There are some friends of yours in the living room. Come on in. Oh, pardon me, kids, but we've got company.
Hi, Walter. I didn't know that... Judy, what are you doing here?
Miss Brooks invited me over to dinner, and then Walter just sort of dropped by.
You sort of dropped by?
Hold him, Miss Brooks!
It's around him, Mr. Boynton.
What's everybody so jumpy about?
Well, aren't you sore at me for sitting here with your girl?
Sore? Heck no, Walter. You're doing me a big favor. See, I got to thinking about what Miss Brooks said this morning, and I realized that I got to get a lot more sleep if I'm going to be any good in the game Saturday.
But, Stretch, dear, you don't have to sleep so much.
Sure I do. Oh, it ain't that I don't appreciate what you and your dad done for me, Judy. And I certainly ain't mad about all that rumbering.
It's just that for athletes, rumbering's not as good as slumbering. Now, Walter, if I may make a suggestion, I think you should drop Miss Brill off at the bus station.
Well, what's this all about, anyway? Is this some kind of a plot?
Turnabout's fair play, Miss Brill.
Yeah. And if you'll excuse me right now, I'll turn about and hit the road.
I'll excuse all of you right now. All but you, Mr. Boynton.
Well, this is what I get for accepting the hospitality of a Madison Highite.
Thank you, and good night. Don't slam the door.
Oh, come on, Stretch. The least we can do is drop her off at the bus station. Good night, Miss Brooks, Mr. Boynton.
Good night. Well, it's simmered down to just the two of us, Mr. Boynton. Let's sit down on the couch.
All right. You know, Miss Brooks, in spite of the fact that I'm a biologist, I've never been overly observant about the emotional reactions of the people around me.
You're not just beating your Bunsen burner, Boynton. That is, you have seemed a little preoccupied at times.
Well, be that as it may, your interest in the welfare of my little animals and the trouble you went to see that I got proper heating facilities for my lab have made me realize just how much you care.
Really, Mr. Boynton?
Yes, indeed. And I want you to know that I care even more than you do.
You care even more than I do?
Yes. I've got $5 bet on that game Saturday.
Well, here's $2.50. I'll take half your bet, and we'll set up housekeeping on the 40-yard line.
And now a word from our star, Eve Arden.
Well, we all had a wonderful time at the football game.
Our Miss Brooks, starring Eve Arden, transcribed, was produced and directed by Larry Burns, written by Arthur Oldsberg and Al Lewis, with the music of Bud Bluskin. Mr. Conklin was played by Gail Gordon. Others in tonight's cast were Jane Morgan, Dick Crenna, Bob Rockwell, Gloria McMillan, Leonard Smith, and Sandra Gould. Starring Eve Arden. Well, most rivalries between school teachers are restricted to working hours, but the one between our Miss Brooks of Madison High School and Daisy Enright extends into their personal lives. In fact, to see these two English teachers engaged in one of their frequent verbal tiffs A casual observer might think that either one would cheerfully cut the other's throat for a nickel. But this isn't so.
No, indeed. I'd give 4 cents change. And after what happened this past week, I might not even take the penny. It all started last Friday morning. I was in my room packing a suitcase for a little weekend trip, and my landlady was helping me. Mrs. Davis, Mr. Boynton's going to Eagle Springs for the weekend, so I thought it was only logical for me to go to the same place.
Does he know you're going?
Nobody knows.
Why not?
Security reasons. I want to spend these few days with Mr. Boynton alone, and if Daisy Enright finds out our destination, that little dream is done for.
You mean she'd go up to Eagle Springs, too?
On her jet broom. She's giving me some real competition lately. She has a certain way with men that just seems to make them do whatever she wants them to. Why, even Mr. Conklin's partial to her.
That's nothing new. I've known for a long time that she's the principal's pet.
Well, I wish he'd keep her on a leash. The minute there's a chance to make a bit of extra money around school, she's the first one to get a crack at it. He even put her in charge of the new switchboard we had installed last week.
But doesn't that require an experienced telephone operator?
They're pretty difficult to get right now, so she's filling in temporarily. She takes the board herself during her free period and appoints various other teachers to take over the rest of the time. What burns me up is the way she got the job, by telling Mr. Conklin she worked for the phone company when she was a girl. What a fish story that is. Oh, there's Walter Denton to drive me to school. Be right there, Walter.
Before you go, Connie, tell me, why do you think it's a fish story?
Because when she was a girl, the telephone hadn't been invented. Walter, please. There's no law that says we can't use all 4 tires going around a corner. Now, slow down a little.
1,000 pardons, dear teacher. Frankly, I'm barely conscious of the speed with which we are traversing this mundane sphere. It is only the corporeal Walter Denton who is restricted to the confines of this vehicle. The spiritual me is floating in the heavenly blue on silver wings.
Well, bail out, Cherub. I'm not ready for harp lessons. What's the reason for this pedestrian-destroying ecstasy?
It's Harriet Conklin, Miss Brooks. She's been treating me like an angel lately. Last night when her folks were out visiting, she even cooked dinner for me. Gosh, it was romantic.
What did you have?
Liver and onions.
Truly the food of love.
To be honest, I was so grateful I barely felt the heartburn. But all isn't beer and Skittles. As much as Harriet adores me, that's how much her father hates the sight of me.
Oh, don't tell me you're having trouble with Mr. Conklin again.
Oh, no more than usual. Now, I wrote an editorial in the Monitor a couple of days ago that Mr. Conklin didn't agree with. You see, in it, I said I was opposed to hiring a permanent substitute for one of our German teachers.
Which one?
Wolfgang Himmelstoss. He's the nice old fellow who's been sick for the past week.
Oh, I wouldn't know. Wolfgang isn't one of my intimates at school.
Well, the other teachers have been sharing his duties so far, but I heard that Mr. Conklin's looking for a younger teacher to take over his class. Now, that means when Mr. Himmelstoss gets better, he won't have a job.
Well, it's nice of you to be so loyal to an old teacher, Walter.
Oh, I'd feel the same way about you, Miss Brooks, and I'd go to bat for you, too. That's why you've got to go to bat for Mr. Himmelstoss.
Me?
Certainly. Now, how would you like it if you were a worn-out, old, lonely, broken-down bachelor?
I'm getting used to it. I mean, how can I help Mr. Himmelstoss?
Well, by mentioning to Mr. Conklin that you don't think he should replace him. Will you, Miss Brooks? Will you do that for me and for all the kids who've grown so fond of Mr. Himmelstoss? Will you, Miss Brooks, huh? Will you, huh?
Well...
Boy, that's a relief. Well, now that you've promised, my mind's at ease. That's one thing about you, boy. Once you make a promise, a guy doesn't have to worry about a thing. He can rest assured that you'll keep your word or die in the attempt. Yes, sir.
Huh? morning, Harriet.
Oh, good morning, Miss Brooks. I have a message for you.
I know. Your father wants to see me in his office immediately.
No, Miss Enright wants to see you in the faculty room. This one on your left.
Well, if it isn't the mumps, it's the measles. Well, I might as well find out what's on her frightening little mind. I'll see you in class, Harriet.
Bye-bye, Miss Brooks.
Toodle. Miss Enright?
Oh, come in, darling. My, you're looking lovely this morning. I'm mad about that dress you're wearing. It does so much to bring out your natural lines.
Really?
Yes. Especially the ones around your eyes. Well, but then there's no time for chit-chat. Miss Brooks, we've got to sit down and have a real heart-to-heart talk.
All right. Borrow a heart and let's get started.
I'll ignore that remark because there's too much at stake to bicker. Now, we're both aware of the fact that we're interested in the same man. And each one of us has been keeping extremely close tabs on him. For instance, I heard that he's going to spend the weekend at Eagle Springs.
Eagle Springs? Mm-hmm. Well, now, who could have started such a ridiculous rumor?
Mr. Boynton told me himself.
He's the logical one to start it all.
I also have a hunch that we were both going to surprise him by showing up at the same place.
Why, Miss Enright, wherever did you get such a fantastic notion?
I've got my train ticket in a bag in my locker. Where are yours?
I'm picking them up after school. Well, suppose we did have the same idea.
Oh, don't you see, Miss Brooks, with such an elusive query, we've got to be more cagey. I'm sure that Mr. Boynton sees some good points in both of us, but the way we've been going about things, we're only hurting each other's chances.
Miss Enright, you may have something there.
Yes.
What do you suggest?
That one of us step out of the picture completely for a specified amount of time and leave the other a clear field.
How much time, for instance?
Well, how about a couple of months?
Fine. See you in January, Miss Enright.
Not so fast. We'll decide who's going to remove herself first in a sportsmanlike manner. Say by dealing a hand of cards.
A hand of cards?
Yes. You know, some of us play bridge during lunch hour, and I just happen to have a deck in my handbag. Do you have the nerve to go through with it?
Nerve? Sit down and deal, Miss Enright. What kind of a game shall we play?
Well, do you know poker?
I've heard of it.
Fine. Then I'll deal one hand of draw poker, and the loser agrees to stay away from Mr. Boynton for a period of 2 months, commencing at once, right?
Right.
Fine. All right. Here we are. Now, you care to cut the deck?
Run 'em.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There. Now, how many cards do you want, Miss Brooks?
Let's see. I'll take 4. How about you?
I'll play these. What have you got, Miss Brooks?
A pair of 10s.
Oh, no good. I've got 4 aces.
4 aces? Well, that's that.
Oh, I'm glad you're taking it like a good sport, Miss Brooks. May I walk to your class with you?
Sure, if you don't mind climbing 4 flights.
4 flights, but your classroom's on the first floor.
I know, but who ever heard of jumping from a first-floor window? I determined to live up to my bargain with Miss Enright and sever all relations with the bashful biologist. As I approached our usual table in the cafeteria at lunchtime, I resolved to get it over with as quickly and painlessly as possible. Mr. Boynton.
Yes?
Goodbye.
Goodbye. You're going somewhere, Miss Brooks?
Yes, out of your life. Goodbye.
Well, no, just a moment. What on earth are you talking about?
It's just that I got to thinking about our relationship, Mr. Boynton, and I've come to the conclusion that it's best for both of us if we don't see each other for a while.
But why, Miss Brooks? How did you come to that conclusion? Oh, I know. I did something.
When? Oh, no, Mr. Boynton. It's nothing you've done. It's not going to be easy, of course. We've had some memorable times together. Those exciting nights when we strolled through the zoo. Those long walks past the aquarium and those evenings under the stars. Just you and me in the planetarium. But now that I've made my decision, all that seems ages ago.
Look, Miss Brooks, I think we should talk this over. I haven't picked up my train ticket to Eagle Springs yet. I was going to phone in my reservation after school, but I don't have to go up there this weekend.
Oh, yes, you do, Mr. Boynton. If I'm going to be a good sport, you've got to go. This is goodbye. Please don't make it any harder.
If that's the way you really feel about it, I don't suppose...
That's the way I feel. Just give me one long, lingering kiss, and I'll go.
Yes?
Okay, what's your next best offer? I just thought that since we've always been such good friends, we should part as good friends do.
Well, I guess I could kiss you goodbye if you want to.
I want. Well, I'm all puckered, Mr. Boynton. Oh, eyes closed and puckered.
Cooling soup, Miss Brooks?
It is indeed. If you'll excuse me, sir, I've got to get some sherbet. I said I'd pick it up before it got cold. See you later, Miss Brooks.
He's a little nervous today.
Miss Brooks, what was the meaning of that hideous osculatory display I was about to witness?
I was just saying goodbye to Mr. Boynton, sir. He's going away, and
Goodbye? You looked like a sea lion about to play Yankee Doodle on a calliope. The idea of kissing in a public school cafeteria. Is that what the Board of Education pays you for, Miss Brooks?
If it is, they haven't been getting their money's worth.
Don't be insolent. To think that in one English department I should have two such extremes in teachers as Miss Enright and you. The one alert, calm, efficient. The other an emotional, mooning, lovesick cocker spaniel.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe it's just the way her ears flop down that make Miss Enright look at her.
You know whom I meant, Miss Brooks. Sometimes I don't know what I'd do without Miss Enright. In addition to her duties as an English teacher, she has recently taken over the operation of our new switchboard.
Yes, I know, sir. She's very clever.
Plus which, just a few moments ago, she solved another problem for me. She has suggested a teacher to take Mr. Himmelstoss's place.
But Mr. Himmelstoss is perfectly capable of taking his own place. I mean, when he gets better, he'll be completely well. That is, everybody's so attached to him, Mr. Conklin, and he's quite old.
That's just it. Miss Schmerzenfelder is young.
Well, I don't care how you... Miss Schmerzenfelder?
I'm phoning her this afternoon to make an appointment. Miss Enright speaks very highly of her. Now, stand aside, please. Your sentimental pleading cannot stay me from my rendezvous with some meatballs. And watch that fraternization, Miss Glad Eye.
Yes, sir. Glad Eye. I'll bet that Miss Schmerzenfelder walks with a goose step. It's just not fair that
Do you mind if I join you, Miss Brooks? I've been talking to myself, too, lately.
Sit down, Walter. What's your trouble?
Old Marblehead, Mr. Conklin's had me on cleanup detail during my free period. You know, it's usually pretty dull work, but I just found something quite interesting in a trash basket in the faculty room.
What is it?
Well, this deck of cards. See?
Well, those are the cards Miss Enright and I used this morning.
What? But you played her with these? Oh, but this is a trick deck, Miss Brooks. She could clobber you with these.
She did clobber me. What do you mean by trick deck?
It's stacked. Did she beat you for much, Miss Brooks?
Just about 2 months of my life. But, Walter, I think I've got an idea. Excuse me, please.
Where are you going, Miss Brooks?
I'm going to see a floppy-eared spaniel about a man.
Well, you are being a good sport, Miss Brooks. This being my free period, I was about to take over the switchboard myself.
Oh, think nothing of it, Miss Enright. I'll be happy to take over for you. I know how rushed you must be, particularly if you want to make that 4:30 train.
Oh, yes, it's the only one up to Eagle Springs today. But you're sure you know how to handle a switchboard, Miss Brooks?
Miss Enright, I worked on the board of a summer resort for an entire summer when I was in my teens.
And you learned everything?
On a resort switchboard? That was the summer I grew up.
Well, I guess there's no sense in looking a gift horse in the mouth. Figuratively speaking, of course.
Oh, that's all right. Slip me the earphones and call me native dancer.
Well, very well. I'm off to the country. Remember now, I have quite a reputation for efficiency with Mr. Conklin.
Don't you worry about that, Miss Enright. I'll take care of your duties and your reputation. But good. This switchboard is a pretty complicated gadget. Thank goodness there haven't been any calls. Uh-oh. There goes one of the lights now. Oh, it's pretty. I guess I plugged this cord in under it. Madison High School?
Would you connect me with Harriet Conklin, please? She's in the home economics class.
I'd love to, Walter.
Miss Brooks, what are you doing there? Isn't Miss Enright at the switchboard?
Not unless she sneaked in under me. Now, you wanted the home economics class. I wonder which hole I plug in for that.
Don't you know?
Well, they all look alike to me. Oh, there's another call. Hold it, Walter. I'll have to get back to you. Madison High School?
Hello. Would you connect me with Miss Brooks, please?
Oh, hello, Mrs. Davis. This is Miss Brooks.
My, I got through to you fast. Whoever's on that switchboard must really know her business.
I'm on the switchboard. What can I do for you?
I just wanted to know whether or not I should...
Oh, excuse me a minute, Mrs. Davis. There's another call coming in. Hang on. Good afternoon, Madison High School.
Oh, good afternoon. Would you put me through to the railroad station, please? This is Mr. Boynton.
The railroad station, Mr. Boynton?
Yes. Is this Miss Brooks?
That's right.
Wasn't Miss Enright there?
Maybe I'd better stand up and look. No, sir. I'm in charge of the board now. I'll connect you with the station in one moment, as soon as I can disguise my voice.
Hello? Hello? Is this the railroad station?
It sure is, Doc. What can I do for you?
I'd like to reserve a ticket to Eagle Springs today.
Eagle Springs? Aren't any trains running to Eagle Springs today. It's snowed in. Goodbye. Now to get back to Mrs. Davis. Hello, Mrs. Davis?
No, this is Walter. Could I speak to Harriet, please?
Any day now, Walter. Hold it. Hello, Mrs. Davis?
Yes, dear. What I wanted to ask you...
Oh, just a moment, Mrs. Davis. There goes another light. Hello?
Oh, hello, Miss Brooks. This is Mr. Boynton. I didn't get that railroad ticket yet. Some nitwit at the station said Eagle Springs was snowed in. Oh, would you try the Weather Bureau for me?
Oh, all right, Mr. Boynton, but you'll have to wait a moment.
Hello? Would you connect me with Walter Denton in shop class, please? This is Harriet Conklin.
Oh, hello, Harriet. This is Miss Brooks. Walter's been trying to get you.
Where is he?
Well, he's somewhere on this board. I'll try to plug you in. Zowie, 5 lights in a row. This board's beginning to look like a pinball machine. Hello?
Hello. Osgood Conklin speaking.
Tilt. How are you, Mr. Conklin? This is Miss Brooks.
On the switchboard? Has Miss Enright taken leave of her senses?
No, sir, just of Madison. She's gone away for the weekend, and I'm pitching in.
Well, I'm calling Miss Schmerzenfelder. Her number is Maine 8493.
Yes, sir, right away. Now, let's see, which hole do I plug for an outside line? I'll try this one. Hello?
Hello, Miss Brooks. Could I speak to Harriet, please?
Oh, didn't you get her, Walter?
No, he didn't get her. But we've been having a delightful conversation, dear.
Who's we?
Walter, Mrs. Davis, and me, Miss Brooks.
Mr. Boynton, too? I must have put you all on the wrong line. Ah, here we are.
Confound it, Miss Brooks. Where's my number?
Well, Mr. Conklin, fancy meeting you again. I'll get Miss Schmerzenfelder for you right now, sir. If I can do a decent German accent. Oh, here's Miss Schmerzenfelder now, Mr. Conklin.
Hello, Miss Schmerzenfelder?
Ja, this is Miss Schmerzenfelder. Who is das?
Das is Mr. This is Mr. Conklin, principal of Madison High School.
Ach, Herr Conklin. Yeah.
Yes. Well, I'm calling about that teaching position that's open in Madison's German department. Miss Enright recommended you in the highest possible terms.
Oh, danke schön. Yeah, I'm the best German teacher in the whole entire ganze Welt. That's the whole world to you. Daisy and I taught together in 2 or 3 high schools, you know.
2 or 3 high schools?
Yeah, the first principal was crazy about the way I taught. That wasn't the reason I was fired.
Fired?
I would still be there if he hadn't found the schnapps in the coat room.
You mean you'd been drinking?
Just a bissel between classes. But I give that all up, Mr. Conklin.
Oh, but what about your last position?
Oh, I wasn't canned on account of my teaching.
Then why did the principal let you go?
The silliest reason. Oh, the silliest reason. How was I to know he didn't like crap games in the elevator?
Oh, this is incredible. Miss Enright spoke of you so highly.
Yeah, it's too bad she couldn't say the same about you.
What?
What a temper she said you got. She said, du bist verrückt. That's nuts to you.
Miss Enright said that? Why, there isn't a word of truth in it. I'm essentially a very mild-mannered man. Anyone who knows me could vouch for that.
Of course they could, Osgood.
What's that? What, is there someone else on this line?
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Conklin. I must have put Mrs. Davis on by mistake.
Oh, gad, of all the stupid, idiotic teachers who...
Was ist das?
No, not you, Miss Schmerzenfelder, no.
Miss Enright was right. Du bist verrückt. Auf Wiedersehen, Mr. Conklin.
No, Miss Schmerzenfelder. I'm talking about the other teacher on this line.
Well, I hardly think that's any way to talk about me, Mr. Conklin.
Boys, what are you doing on this line?
He's waiting to speak to Harriet. Oh, no, that was Mrs. Davis.
What?
Could I speak to Harriet, please, Miss Brooks?
I knew there was someone waiting to speak to her.
Here I am, Walter, dear.
What do you know? They finally got together.
Miss Brooks, I don't know who is more to blame for this fiasco, you or Miss Enright. I'll deal with her when I see her. But how do you propose to straighten out the tangle you've gotten this switchboard into?
Don't worry, Mr. Conklin. I've got one more line that's still free, and I know just what I'm going to do with it.
What?
Hang myself. What else?
And now, here's the star of our show, Eve Arden.
Well, we finally got our lines untangled, though I'm still not sure how.
Our Miss Brooks, starring Eve Arden, transcribed, was produced and directed by Larry Burns, written by Arthur Olsberg and Al Lewis, with the music of Lud Gluskin. Mr. Conklin was played by Gail Gordon. Others in tonight's cast were Jane Morgan, Dick Crenna, Bob Rockwell, Gloria McMillan, and Mary Jane Croft.
Next week at this same time and over this same station, Eve Arden, in the role of Madison High School's favorite English teacher, Miss Brooks, will again call the student body together. Don't you be absent. Our Miss Brooks is presented each week through the worldwide facilities of the United States Armed Forces Radio and Television Service.
Miss Brooks, starring Eve Arden. Well, over the years, our Miss Brooks, who teaches English at Madison High, has had more than her share of difficulties with her principal, Mr. Conklin. Recently, however, their relations have improved.
Yes, my uncle and aunt feel a lot better. Actually, things have been a bit smoother between Mr. Conklin and me. In fact, when I suggested the plan I had heard about to supplement our teaching with movies, Mr. Conklin gave me the money to try it out. So until last week, when the great experiment was to take place in one of my classes, everything was going splendidly. And in more ways than one. Because Thursday morning, Mr. Boynton was over at my house for breakfast. My landlady was attending an early club meeting, so there were just the two of us. I could sense that Mr. Boynton felt the warm, romantic implications of this domestic scene, because his voice seemed choked with emotion when he said,
I wonder how long Joe Palooka will be champ.
I haven't the slightest idea. Why don't you ask little Abner?
Little Abner?
He's been staring at me from the other side of that newspaper for the past 10 minutes.
Oh, pardon me, Miss Brooks. Reading the paper was rather rude, I guess. It's just that I feel so at home here, I didn't think you'd mind.
Oh, I really don't, Mr. Boynton. That's just the way I want you to feel.
Good. Oh, I haven't had this sort of breakfast since I was home with Mother.
Well, have you ever thought that you might enjoy a breakfast like this every day, Mr. Boynton?
Of course I have, Miss Brooks, many times. But Dad needs her too much for Mom to come down here.
That isn't quite what I had in mind.
How's your latest project at school working out, Miss Brooks?
I don't know yet, Mr. Boynton. The first film, The Lady of the Lake, was shown to my English class yesterday.
And you don't know how it worked out?
No, I had to do something for Mr. Conklin during that hour, so I let the kids run the picture themselves. We'll know how it was received when Walter Denton picks us up in a few minutes.
Well, films can be a big help to all teachers. Why, other schools have been showing movies in their classrooms for years. I wonder why Mr. Conklin would never allow it at Madison before.
He hates popcorn. Mrs. Davis is very fond of the idea, though. In fact, she's showing a film at her club's breakfast this morning. She rented it from the same place I did.
What picture did she rent?
A little number called Shearing Sheep at Big Billabong, Australia.
Oh? What's it about?
It's about shearing sheep at Big Billabong, Australia. It's perfect for the ladies in Mrs. Davis's club.
Shearing sheep in Australia. Why should that be perfect for the ladies in Mrs. Davis' club?
There are some pretty woolly ladies in Mrs. Davis's club. Oh, that must be Walter. Come on in. The door's open.
I'm anxious to hear how your audio-visual experiment was received by the English class.
If past performances mean anything, I know exactly what happened 5 minutes after I left the room.
What?
They left the room.
Well, what a pleasant surprise. Greetings to my two favorite faculty members, the fairest of the fair and the brawniest of the brawny.
Oh, it's just the padding in these shoulders that makes me look... Oh, you mean him.
Hey, where's the effervescent Mrs. Davis this morning?
She's fizzing at a ladies' club breakfast.
Oh, that must be the same one Mom and Mrs. Conklin are attending.
Walter, we're both anxious to hear how that audio-visual experiment worked out yesterday.
Yes, how was the Lady of the Lake received, Walter?
Oh, great, Miss Brooks. Yeah, unfortunately, the sound part of the projector didn't work, but the class made up for that. Oh, you never heard such whistling in your life.
Whistling? At the Lady of the Lake? What did she do, come out?
Not exactly, Miss Brooks. You see, the title on the can the picture came in said The Lady of the Lake, all right, but the picture turned out to be something called Sirens of the Screen, Past and Present.
What?
Yeah, and we put it on at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and every fella in the class was late for dinner last night.
But it's only a 15-minute short.
I know, but we ran it 23 times.
Well, you don't mean that.
Yeah, and we stopped the projector for 10 minutes every time we got to Marilyn Monroe. Woo, hell afternoon. Hey, what have you got planned for next week, Miss Brooks?
A little epic called The Teacher Dies at Dawn. Has Conklin heard about this yet, Walter?
Oh, I don't know, Miss Brooks.
I hope he hasn't. I know what this project means to you, Miss Brooks.
Well, cheer up, Mr. Boynton. Even if he has heard about it, we can still get a picture of the Lady of the Lake.
What do you mean?
I may drown myself.
Now, if you'll be seated, Miss Brooks, I'll come directly to the point.
Yes, sir.
As an experiment in audio-visual education, I gave you not only permission, but also $15 to rent a projector and film of the poem The Lady of the Lake.
Something go wrong, Mr. Conklin?
Miss Brooks, when I did so, I had no idea that the Lady of the Lake would turn out to be Marilyn Monroe.
Me either. Esther Williams would have been much more appropriate. I can explain this, Mr.
Explain? Explain this, then. When you wanted this film, you told me it was Sir Walter Scott's poem, presented against a background of Scottish sea.
But, sir...
The only scotch in that entire picture was in a glass in Peter Barrer's hand.
Oh, then you've run the picture, Mr. Conklin.
5 times, Miss Brooks. I ran it through a few times to convince myself that what I was seeing was true. Sirens of the screen, indeed. I've already heard from Mr. Stone this morning, and he was furious. It seems that 5 parents have already complained to him about it. He blames the whole thing on me.
But why you, sir? It was my idea.
I know, but I took credit for it.
Mr. Conklin, this is a mistake on the part of the company. Institutional Pictures. It probably won't happen again in another 10 years. We're all entitled to one mistake, aren't we?
Sometimes when I think of you, Miss Brooks, that is the only thing that keeps me going. But I told Mr. Stone it was all a mistake, and I also told him we had another film in case he wanted to reassure himself on the subject matter of the pictures we're showing.
But, sir, we haven't another picture. And including the projector, they cost $15 to rent.
That is your problem, Miss Brooks. You got us into this thing, and you are going to get us out of it. In any event, Mr. Stone said he wouldn't bother to come over unless there are further complaints. However, if there are, he said heads would roll. Osgood Conklin, principal speaking. Who? Yes, she's right here now. It's for you, Miss Brooks.
For me, sir? Hello?
Hello, Connie. This is Mrs. Davis.
Oh, hello, Mrs. Davis.
I just called to tell you how the picture I showed at the Ladies' Club breakfast turned out. I gave full credit for the idea to you, of course. And I told the ladies that this was the identical sort of picture being shown at Madison High.
I see. Well, how did Shearing Sheep at Big Billabong turn out?
Oh, those scenes in the nightclub were terrific, dear.
In the nightclub?
Yes, and the ones in the showgirls' dressing room were even more sensational.
What? Well, where were the sheets?
You know, that's what we were wondering. I ran the picture through 3 times trying to find them. But it was all about a chorus girl. However, none of the ladies seemed to mind. That is, none except Mrs. Stone.
Mrs. Stone was there? What did she say, Mrs. Davis?
Oh, she didn't say a thing, dear. She just fainted. I hope I haven't disturbed you, dear.
Oh, not at all, Mrs. Davis. My tongue always sticks to the roof of my mouth in the morning. I'll speak to you later. Goodbye.
Goodbye, dear.
What was that all about, Miss Brooks?
Mr. Conklin, did Mr. Stone really say heads would roll if there was another complaint?
That's exactly what he said, Miss Brooks. What about it?
Nothing, sir. Only I wonder how we'll both look when we're 10 inches shorter. I told Mr. Boynton about my predicament in the school cafeteria at lunchtime.
Let's see if I've got it straight, Miss Brooks. You must have another film here to show Mr. Stone when he arrives this afternoon, or the entire project goes right out the window.
Followed swiftly by me. And the cost of renting a new film and projector is $15, which I've got to get somewhere.
Isn't Mr. Conklin giving you anything?
Yes, 2 hours in which to dig it up.
Well, you can count on me for part of the $15.
Oh, really, Mr. Boynton? What part?
$2.35. Here's the 35 cents now.
Well, thanks, Mr. Boynton, but where's the $2?
Just a second till I take off my shoe.
You mean you've got $2 in your shoe?
Well, no, I've only got $1 in my shoe.
Where's the other $1?
In my hat band.
You'd make a nervous wreck out of a hold-up man. But I do appreciate
Hello,
you.
Miss Brooks. Hello, Mr. Boynton.
Oh, hello, Harriet.
I hope I'm not interrupting anything, but Mr. Boynton, what are you doing with your shoe off?
He's just airing out his money. What is it, Harriet?
Well, first, Daddy asked me to tell you to be sure to be in his office with the new film by 3:30, because that's when Mr. Stone's due to arrive. And secondly, knowing the position you're in, I went around to all the girls and took up a collection for you.
I'm beginning to feel like a charity case.
Remember the old proverb, Miss Brooks. Pride goeth before a fall.
That I knoweth. And at this point, I'm not going to turn down anything.
I knew you needed $15, so I canvassed about 30 girls, Miss Brooks. I told them to cough up as much as they could.
How much did you collect?
80 cents.
That's not much of a cost.
I've also got $1 of my own I want to lend you.
Oh, no, really, Harriet. I wouldn't dream of taking
Oh,
it.
but Miss Brooks...
Well, all right, dear, if you insist. Where is the $1?
I'll give it to you as soon as I go down to my locker after lunch.
The $1's in your locker?
Not exactly, Miss Brooks, but that's the only place I can remove the stocking I'm wearing over it.
If the wallet industry depended on this school, it'd go broke. Well, thanks a lot, Harriet.
Oh, here's the money, Miss Brooks. I did the very best I could.
I knew all the precincts hadn't been heard from.
Oh, did you take up a collection too, Walter?
Oh, yes, sir. I went around to all the fellows in your English Lit class, Miss Brooks, and I told them you needed 15 Iron Men for a new film, and since they'd all seen Sirens of the Screen, this was one little way of expressing their gratitude.
Oh, and how much did you collect?
65 cents.
Done a bigger business with Lady of the Lake.
Oh, but that's not all. I want to lend you $1 of my own, which I've kept for just such an emergency.
Thanks, Walter. Where is it?
Well, you know that good luck charm I wear around my neck with my mother's picture in it?
Yes.
Oh, that's not my mother. It's George Washington.
I always said there was more to you people than meets the eye. Now, let's see. Mr. Boynton has $2.35 for me, Harriet $1.80, and Walter $1.65. That comes to approximately $6. Then I've got another couple of dollars of my own.
Oh, I didn't think you had any money, Miss Brooks. Where did you get $2?
Remember when I went to the dentist last week?
Yes.
Well, I stashed $2 away in a temporary filling.
Oh, I'm dreadfully sorry, Miss Brooks, but Institutional Pictures can't accept $8 on a projector and film which rents for $15.
But, Mr. Gibson, it was your mistake in the first place. You sent us Sirens of the Screen, past and present, when I'd ordered The Lady of the Lake from your salesman. I think his name was Blake.
Oh, yes. We've had nothing but trouble with that man. Our manager wouldn't raise his salary, so out of sheer spite, he switched any number of films on us before he quit. I'd like to help you, but we have a strict 24-hour ruling, and you've had your film for several days. You'll just have to tell your organization. What is it, by the way? A ladies' club? Social service group? Union?
I teach at Madison High School.
What? Why, our biggest rental is to schools. You showed Sirens of the Screen to a high school class?
With a 10-minute stopover at Marilyn Monroe.
You look like a very fair-minded person. I'll tell you what I'll do. You keep the $8 now that you have the new film and projector for nothing.
Well...
I'll make it 4 films for nothing.
Well...
Forget about the rentals entirely. I'll give you a year's supply of films free if you'll get your school to forget this incident.
Well...
And I'll throw in $10 for yourself.
Well...
Miss Brooks, aren't you going to answer me?
I'm doing good enough with well. Now, look, Mr. Gibson, just give me a good film to show the head of our school board when he comes to Madison this afternoon, and we'll call it square.
Oh, you're the salt of the earth. I have just the thing for the occasion. The Board of Education at Work. Don't you think it's perfect?
I suppose so, if you like fantasy. Well, when Mr. Gibson agreed to rectify his mistake and give me a new film to show Mr. Stone, it seemed that my troubles were just about over. At 3 that afternoon, we were getting everything ready in Mr. Conklin's office.
Well, the projector's all set up, Miss Brooks. All we have to do when Mr. Conklin and Mr. Stone get here is turn the switch and run the film.
Yeah, this office ought to be a perfect projection room. You see, the way I've fixed the shades, no light can get in through the windows at all.
Oh, you've done a beautiful job, Walter.
There's only one thing that bothers me. The sound on this projector doesn't work.
With Mr. Conklin in the room, nobody will notice the difference.
We've still got a few minutes before Daddy gets here. Why don't we run the film through once for the four of us?
Good idea, Harriet. Let's sit down.
Yeah, but there are only 2 chairs in this room. Where are the 4 of us going to sit?
We can worry about that when the lights are out.
What are you talking about?
What Walter means is that he and Harriet can share the big, comfortable chair that Mr. Conklin keeps for visitors.
Yeah, but what about the 2 of us?
We can divide this narrow one. And don't look so panicky. We can either show the film or just turn out the lights and wait until Mr. Conklin and Mr. Stone get here.
Just turn out the lights? What good will that do?
Does that answer your question?
Maybe we'd better run the film.
I was afraid you'd see it that way. All right, Walter, turn off the desk light and let's get started.
Yes, ma'am. There we are.
Gosh, I can't see a thing. Where are you, Miss Brooks? Are you seated yet?
After you, Mr. Boynton. That is, I'll sit on the edge of the chair nearest the projector switch. Now, are we all set, Walter? Walter? They're all set. Well, here goes. Oh, what a magnificent view of the Rock of Gibraltar. I feel as if I could reach out and touch it.
You're staring at my chin, Miss Brooks. You're leaning rather close to me.
How nice of you to notice. Well, we've missed the title, but we know it's about the Board of Education at work.
Oh, look at that sign by the side of the road.
It says you are now entering Las Vegas, Nevada.
Oh, it's probably all about the Las Vegas Board of Education.
I hope you're right.
Well, of course I am. There they are now, all working around a table.
They certainly are. A dice table. Mr. Boynton, this is a picture about gambling. There's been another terrible mistake.
Oh, turn off the projector at once, Miss Brooks.
Well, I'm trying to. This switch is stuck. Pull the plug out of the wall.
I don't know where the wall plug is with the lights off.
Walter, turn on the desk lamp so Mr. Boynton can find the plug. Walter. Walter, do you hear me? You're a big help. You have to find it in the dark, Mr. Boynton.
Well, I'll try.
Oh, good. You found it.
What on earth is going on in here?
Mr. Conklin. Oh, just a moment, sir. I'll turn on the light.
No, never mind the lights, Miss Brooks. Since you've apparently started your new film, The Board of Education at Work, I'd like to have a look at it before Mr. Stone gets here.
Here. Sit in my chair, sir.
Oh, where will you sit?
I'll stand in front of the screen. It isn't a very good picture, Mr. Conklin.
Stop babbling, please. I'll just settle myself in this comfortable chair on the other side of the projector. There we are. Logan! Something speared me.
You just got on my knees, Daddy, and you're a little heavy.
Harriet, what are you talking about?
I doubt if I can hold the both of you.
Kent! Where are you?
He's between the devil and the deep blue sea.
Well, turn on those wall lights, Boynton.
Yes, sir.
Uh-huh. Harriet, I want you and Denton to leave this room at once. Through my inner office, please. And I'll speak to you both later.
Very well, Daddy.
Mr. Conklin, appearances are very often deceiving. And I want you to know that Harriet was in no way responsible for what happened. I'll take the full blame, sir. It was all my fault. And I insist that you let me accept the entire responsibility for this whole...
Oh, blow!
Yes, sir. Goodbye.
Well, Mr. Stone ought to be here any minute now, and we can get rolling again.
At least our heads can. Mr. Conklin, I forgot that...
Oh, please, come in. Well, good afternoon, Mr. Stone.
Good afternoon, Osgood. Well, Mr. Boynton, Miss Brooks.
Hello, Mr. Stone. Want to go for a nice walk?
A walk? I came over here to see a movie.
That's what I mean. Let's walk over and see a movie. The Bijou has a fine Marlon Brando picture.
Miss Brooks, what are you jabbering about? Now, turn off the lights, Boynton, and I'll put the plug back in the wall here.
If you say so, Mr. Conklin.
Ah, there you are, Mr. Stone. What a scene. The members of the Board of Education gathered round a table rolling dice. Now, it's certainly a far cry from the report you heard about the picture yesterday with the shocking exhibition of movie queens and... Miss Brooks? Why are the members of the board rolling dice?
The blackjack dealers are on strike.
Pull that plug. I'm turning these lights on. So all my suspicions were true, Osgood. Your moral laxity is undermining this entire institution.
Oh, pardon this interruption, Miss Brooks, but there's been another mistake.
Now he tells me.
Who is this man?
It's Mr. Gibson, the man who rented us the film.
Well, now, I'll do anything to rectify my mistake, Miss Brooks. Why, I'll even... Oh, hello, Mr. Stone.
Oh, you know Mr. Stone?
He's evidently mistaking me for somebody else.
Oh, no, sir. Well, don't you remember when that friend of yours got married last month? You rented 2 films from me for a smoker you gave him?
Match anyone?
What? Well, I remember it distinctly because one of the pictures caused all the hubbub today. Sirens of the Screen, past and present.
Oh, is that so? Well, for your information, when I flashed it on the screen that night, it turned out to be the Lady of the Lake.
So, Mr. Stone, you are going to call my moral laxity to the attention of the Board of Education.
Oh, you don't really think I meant that, do you, Osgood? Not on your tin type, my boy. If anything, it's Mr. Gibson who should be brought before the board.
Oh, that would be a waste of time, Mr. Stone.
A waste of time?
The way Mr. Gibson operates, by the time he got there, he'd turn out to be Zsa Zsa Gabor.
And now, here's our star, Eve Arden.
That film mix-up really has got me into hot water.
Miss Brooks, starring Eve Arden, transcribed, was produced and directed by Larry Burns, written by Arthur Alsberg and Al Lewis, with the music of Lud Gluskin. Mr. Conklin was played by Gail Gordon. Others in tonight's cast were Jane Morgan, Dick Crenna, Bob Rockwell, Gloria McMillan, Joseph Kearns, and Joel Samuel.
Next week at this same time and over this same station, Eve Arden, in the role of Madison High School's favorite English teacher, Miss Brooks, will again call the student body together. Don't you be absent. Our Miss Brooks is presented each week through the worldwide facilities of the United States Armed Forces Radio and Television Service.
This is the American Forces Network, Europe.